Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening around the globe. We want to welcome you to ICAN On Air today, August 20, 2026. In ICAN, we recognize that a safe work environment is fundamental to employee well-being and organizational success. Beyond standard compliance, effective health and safety measure protects lives, enhance productivity, and strengthen workplace culture. Today, we'll be looking at quality health, safety, and strategic risk management in the modern workplace. I want to welcome you once again. My name is Dr. Bode Ogutoke. You can call me DBO. Today is going to be an interesting time for us to look at some other things that we take for granted, but that impact on our productivity, that impact on on the longevity of our lives. I want to say welcome to another episode of ICAN On Air. And with me today is
Okiemute Tijiri FCA. Glad to be with our global audience this evening.
okay. Before we invite in our special guest to discuss this topic, let's go on a short break. We'll be back.
He knows what it takes to succeed.
She has the skill to move financial mountains.
So can you with ICAN and the CGMA designation.
She has the confidence to lead finance in Nigeria.
He's ready to become a finance leader.
So can you with ICAN and the CGMA designation.
Okay, welcome back, and thank you again to our global audience for joining us on this program. We have a guest in the studio with us, and our guest is a seasoned health and safety professional. She will be sharing her expertise on how leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals can build a safer, healthier, and a more sustainable workplace. Mrs. Yemi Akinyemi is a UK-based health and safety professional with extensive experience in major rail, road, and cycle transport projects, including the Crossrail, now running as the Elizabeth Line, and then the London Underground. She is certified by the Institution of Occupational Safety and Health. Yemi started her career 14 years ago, managing some of the Category 1 standards of the LU management system, including the rule books and the line supplements. She subsequently worked on the 4 lines modernization, that's a 4LM program for the transport organization. Yemi also has experience of working in the water industry, another heavily regulated and high-risk industry, where she collaborates with colleagues to achieve the corporate vision of zero harm. Yemi has an MSc in Environmental Systems Engineering from the University College London and takes a systems thinking approach to problem solving. She has a passion for working and collaborating with people to change behavior and prevent harm to people, environment, and assets, our global audience. Would you join me this evening to welcome our guest, Mrs. Yemi Akinyemi, to the program this evening? You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Ms. Akinyemi, your profile shows that we are going to have a nice time discussing issue of health and safety. You are welcome once again. In the word of Ralph Waldo Emerson, an American essayist, lecturer, and philosopher, he says the first wealth is health. Our global audience will be happy to share from your wealth of experience, your wealth of knowledge, in simple terms. What is quality health and what does it encompass?
Thank you. That's an interesting question, and it's a really good one to start with because I actually I do enjoy reading Emerson's essays. So when it comes to quality health, what do we mean? I really like that quote because it says the first wealth is health. Now, if we sort of break it down a little bit, it doesn't matter how much money we have, if we don't have good health to enjoy it, it's almost meaningless, isn't it? So I think what he's trying to say there, and from quality health point of view, is the foundation at the very core of that quote is that our physical and the mental well-being is interlinked. It is the basis for creating wealth. And if we accept that the first wealth is our health, then that sort of means that if we work on the first wealth, we can create more wealth. So if you have sound health, then it's easy for you. You can think, whether it's physical, mental, we are putting that together in one. So quality health is your whole being, is what it feels like in you, your mental being, your physical being, all of it combined together. And so it's free, it's you being free from worries, it's you being free from, I suppose, stress, it's being free from illnesses, it's being free from anything that is contrary to your peace and well-being, but especially well-being. So in health and safety, we do take health very, very seriously because it is at the core of everything that we do. If you're sick, if you're ill, you don't have the power, you don't have the energy. How can you work? If you work in a place where you don't have that psychological safety, where you feel you can speak up, say, for example, you're working and you're stressed and you can't tell anyone, the workload is too much and you just feel that you need to carry on. There's nobody to talk to. There's nobody to raise your concerns with. So what we call psychological safety, which is basically creating a space for the workforce to be able to voice out when something is not right. If you have a workforce that feels like that, productivity is going to slow, and it will affect your bottom line, and it will affect morale. People will they'll start calling in sick, and then you're going to have a high level of attrition, absenteeism. So it's a combination of all of that. So as an organization, your workforce, they need to feel healthy. They need to feel that you're invested in their health. And so that would encourage them your workplace becomes somewhere that people will want to work. And so thereby you're creating that next level of wealth. So essentially for everyone, whether it's an organization, because you do have organizational health as well. So if you're as an organization, you're not performing, you're not hitting your profit is affected and all of that. That is not a sign of an organization that's in good health. So essentially, it's not just about humans, it's also about the organization as well. How healthy are we? But the very, very first level of that health, of that wealth, is our personal health. And it is crucial for us to be able to develop the subsequent stages.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. If I heard you correctly, health, whether individual or organizational, is an integral part of safety. Yes, we would like to acknowledge our global audience. Please, as you're joining us, do let us know from where you are joining us. To all of our viewers on our social media handles, let us know, share your name and share your location. Mrs. Yemi, so safety, the word safety and security are often used interchangeably in everyday conversation. You know, from your professional experience, do they actually mean the same thing or are they different? Can you give us some simple examples that will help our viewers, you know, understand it better, the difference between safety and security? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So they are different but linked. So
Okay.
safety is all about, if there is a risk to your safety, it's all about the kind of, what's the best word to use here? It is unintentional. It's something that people do. It's about the intent of it. So if I say, for example, I spilled water by mistake and somebody walks into the water, normally for the organization, for it to be best practices, you spill something or you come across something that could harm somebody else, you try to act on it. So if it's possible, say, for example, using the example of water, if I've spilled water or if I'm sort of walking across and I come across that spillage, normally I should try my best to clean it up. Because if I don't, and somebody walks into it, they could slip and fall. If I cannot clean it up, then I need to report it or get somebody else or the right team or the right support, maybe facilities, to clean it up. Because failure to do that can lead to somebody coming to harm, i.e. falling. Okay, but that spillage is most likely going to be unintentional. It's something that may have happened. Maybe they're walking away, the cup is too full, they spill it. Okay, so that's the element of safety. And slips, trips, and falls is one of the most common hazards that you can find in any workplace. That is actually a hazard that's common across everywhere, whether it's a high risk, small risk, a chemical processing plant, or an office. You can find that hazard anywhere. When it comes to security, security can be intentional. What do I mean by that? It could be somebody trespassing onto your site with no good intention. Maybe they want to, I don't know, steal, theft. Maybe they want to break something, maybe. And I suppose one of the most common ones, topical ones now, is cybersecurity. It is intentional. It is there to cause harm. The intent behind it is to cause harm. So that's the core difference, the main difference between the two. Safety is about the person, the environment, and all of that. Security, it could be about infrastructure, it could be about buildings, it could be malicious, I suppose is the word I'm looking for here in the case of security. That's the core difference between the two. However, they are linked. Because if you do find, if somebody does break your defense or your fence and they come in, they could attack somebody else. So in that case, the safety of your member of staff or colleagues or whatever, that's compromised. So they are linked, but the core difference is one is intentional, one is unintentional.
That is interesting for me. In fact, for the first time, I'm able to differentiate that, saying that safety is when there is an unintentional threat and it can cause harm or injury, and to cause harm or injury. Thank you for that, ma'am. Let's go to the issue of health. Despite their education level and even exposure, we observe that many professionals appear to care less about themselves. They care less about themselves. They care less about the management of their health. Uh, what is your take on this? What is your experience around this?
I think, and we're all guilty of this. We see something, and we say, "Oh, I'll deal with it later."
Mm.
But what we all tend to forget, even though we all say it every day, is prevention is better than cure. If you've seen symptoms, if you've noticed something that's not usual, you need to sort of stop and think about it and maybe seek help to understand. Because at the end of the day, you yourself are responsible for your own health. And that is your actual responsibility that you cannot delegate to somebody else, because it's your health and you need to take care of it. And it's your first wealth, as we were talking earlier in that quote from Emerson. So as professionals, we cannot be too busy to not look after our health. So what would I say? Don't wait until something happens before acting on it, because at the core of health and safety in general anyway is that we need to be proactive. When you are reacting to something or a situation or an event, it's too late. The damage is done. And the same goes for our health. If you spot something that's not usual, that's, you don't understand, just get it checked out. And I think the other thing to say there is that we hear it every day from medical practitioners and such like that. The outcome tends to be better the earlier anything is picked up. Regardless of what it may be, even if it's something that's we may consider not too serious. If you pick it up, if you get it seen to and all of that, the outcome tends to be generally better. But even before it becomes a big issue, know your body, know what's usual for you, know what's not usual for you. And so if anything comes that's not usual, it's a body that you've been living in for some time as an adult. So you would know when something is right and it's strange, or it's not normal, or it's abnormal. It's whatever it may be. Our body has a way of telling us. We just need to listen a bit more. And so for me, prevention is better than cure. It holds true all the time for health, for safety. Even in safety, we talk about that. You have to be proactive, because by the time you are reacting to something, it's too late. That event has happened. So you've lost control. Before it becomes that, we need to, for our health, we need to make sure that we attend to it. We can't be too busy to look after our health. Can't hear you.
Okay. I was saying thank you so much for that response. As professionals, we cannot be too busy to pay attention to our body. After all, health, again, we've established, is the first wealth. So in some workplaces, or most workplaces, you have people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, religion, and even level of experience working side by side every day. What basic health and safety practices should be in place to guarantee quality health and a safe working environment?
Thank you for that. I think, and it's absolutely right. The world, everything is so intertwined. We're all so sort of mixed now that we have people from different parts of the world and all of that. So for me, the first thing is, if you're going to employ somebody, and if they need to work together, what you need to, a key part is Are they competent to do what they're doing? Do they know what they're doing? Have you given them the right equipment? So are they trained? Are they trained for it? What they're doing? So the right equipment, how about the physical environment where people work? And then once you look at that, the actual activities that they're going to do, have we risk assessed them? Do we know where the hazards are? So I think the first thing in health and safety generally is you need to determine your risk profile. And once you know what are the risks in your organization, then you can put measures in place to sort of mitigate those risks. So, and if it's competence, then you know you need to train. If it's equipment, you need to get the right equipment for people. So, say for example, somebody needs to use a knife, for example. If you give them a blunt knife, for example, they would need more effort to use that knife. It will require more force. And if you're taking that sort of thought, so if I'm using my hand and I'm forcing, that will affect my hand. I could end up injuring my hand and all of this. So even though it's an equipment, a piece of equipment that we're talking about, you can see how it can eventually make its way to harming my body. So it is, if you have a multidisciplinary a group working, so the basic thing to do is you need to find out what it is in your working environment that could cause harm. So the hazards, you need to identify them. You need to identify who could come to harm when you're doing that. And then you need to look at what you're going to do about it. So what are the mitigation measures? So for example, if I have people who are going to work at height, as an example, so that inherent is that people can fall. So who could be harmed? It will be my workforce. But then if you're working in an open place and you haven't segregated where you're working, my employee could fall and land on a member of the public. And then so you're having impact on somebody that's not even an employee of yours. Are they trained? So if they're using a ladder, for example, are they trained? Do they know how to use a ladder? Do they know, what sort of equipment? And you have the step ladder, you have different types of ladders. And is the ladder checked? Do they know that they need to carry out a pre-use check before they use that ladder? So it doesn't matter where your teams come from, what they're doing. What you need to make sure is that they're competent. You've identified the hazards, you've identified the risks, you've evaluated it, you've put mitigation measures in place, i.e. how you're going to deal with it so that you reduce that impact or remove it altogether. So for example, taking that work at height example, rather than using a ladder, is it possible to use, say I'm cleaning windows, is it possible to use an extendable piece of equipment, squeegee, that could do that? Can I use a drone, I don't know, to investigate a roof? That sort of thing. So that stops me or my employee working at height. So the very, very first thing to do is to eliminate that hazard. So that's the sort of mitigation measures that you need to put in place. And then you need to record it. You need to let people know. There's no point in having all these fancy documents and then the people that would use them, they've never heard of them or they don't know what it means to them. So we also need to make sure that we're working as a team and we understand each other. So for example, what we sometimes do, say in a construction site, if you have people whose first language is not English, then you might need to translate your documents for them if they're because they need to understand what you're doing. So there are various ways. And then the instructions needs to be clear, need to be easy to follow. There's no point in me using big words that my employees won't understand. Make it clear, make it concise, and so they would know. And that's where the standard operating procedures come in. So you need to tell them what the purpose is, what the scope, who it affects, and the procedure, step by step. It's systematic. All we're trying to do is that communication piece, so people know what is expected of them. They know what hazards they can encounter. They know what the mitigation measures are, and they know what they can do to if something goes wrong. They need a way of reporting it so that we capture it, and it will be part of a library where we go to sort of improve our processes, our procedures, and make sure that, you know, we are doing everything we can to protect our workforce.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. What I can see from what you're from what you are saying already is you're already bringing in the issue of risk and mitigation into the conversation. I want to relate this to strategic risk, which we believe that the quality of health and safety in workplace is going to impact. But most of the time, ma'am, they face like health and safety are always associated with accident prevention and regulatory compliance only. We want to ensure that there is no accident, and we do want to ensure that we are not breaching any regulatory requirement. From strategic risk point of view, does it mean that some organizations react to incidents instead of identifying and managing accidents before they occur?
Thank you. That's a very important question, because it's right at the core of health and safety. So when it comes to hazard identification or risks, I think health and safety risk, and this is very important, health and safety risk needs to be part of strategic risks. You cannot treat health and safety separately from your strategic business objectives or strategic business risks. If you do that, you're likely to overlook, you're likely not to allocate enough money to spend on it, and it's going to end up still affecting you, because when you have health and safety issues, it's actually going to affect that strategic risk that you think you've protected. So it needs to be part of the strategic risk, so that you have a holistic view of all the risks in your business. So that is a very, very important thing. Now, are people, do they sort of manage it better in a proactive way or reactive way? Unfortunately, a lot of the time it is reactive. We're not proactive enough. And it sort of comes back to what we were talking about earlier, just before the program started. If you put measures in place, if you know what you're dealing with, you can put measures in place, and so you can prevent harm, people coming to harm. And when we say harm, it could be injuries to people, it could be damage to equipment, it could be all of that. Now, if you've done your homework and you know what the risks are in your business, then you can put measures in place to deal with them before they become incidents. So, for example, if I know that a lot of my staff, my workforce, they do a lot of driving, as an example. Now, what do I need to put in place? I need to make sure that they are trained, they've got their license, they know what is involved, they're not fatigued, they're not driving for too long without taking breaks, and all of that. The vehicles are maintained, and there's a regular check on them. Some people like that, sometimes they might need health surveillance, especially if they work night shifts. If I put all of that in place, it stands me in a good stead to prevent harm coming to those people. that group of workforce. Okay. Does that mean that there will never be an incident? You would hope not. But sometimes it might not even be the fault of my workforce now. It might be somebody else who has now caused the incident. So what am I trying to say here? It's better to be proactive rather than reactive, because as we said earlier, it's too late. So your leading indicators will be that training, that report, that, that people, what they've reported and, what they've noticed. You've had a look at previous records. You've seen that, okay, there's a pattern here. And so going forward, you've put measures in place to make sure that that doesn't happen again. That is the best way. And it's not good, it's not best practice to aim for minimum compliance. Why is that? If you're aiming for minimum compliance, it means that you only need to have just one incident and you're below, you're no longer compliant. So what we always encourage is try and aim higher, raise your standards above minimum compliance. So if, I don't know, I'm just going to use a numerical example, which is probably not the best. Say, for example, minimum compliance says you need to score 5 out of 10. And you've aimed, you've driven all your measures, you've put measures in place so that you achieve 8 out of 10, as an example. Now, should an event occur, should an incident occur, the likelihood is if you drop, you'll probably drop to 7, maybe 6, worst case scenario. So you're still compliant because 5 is the compliant level. However, if you aimed for, you say, oh, yeah, minimum compliance is 5. Oh, what are we doing? Oh, it's 5, we're compliant, job done. Yeah. Guess what's going to happen if you have an incident? Straight away, you're no longer compliant and you could get in trouble.
Great.
So there are different strands to it. You need to take a critical look at your business operations, your activities, find out what it is, what the hazards are, put measures in place before things happen. That is best practice. So proactive rather than reactive, really.
Yeah. Proactive rather than reactive. Thank you so much for that. We'll be going on a short break. And when we return, we still have a lot to unpack with our guests. Stay tuned.
You're welcome back. From that break, we've been having conversation around quality health, safety, and strategic risk management in the modern workplace. And joining us in all these conversations are our global audience. We want to recognize Janet Undoka, a professional colleague from Lagos, joining us from Lagos. Shokubi Babatunde, ECA from Ibadan. Ayorinde Tunde, joining us from Ota. Fagbola Temitope Adeniyi, joining us from Oluyole and District Society. We recognize Okeke Okore, FCA, joining us also from Lagos. Lois Ozaze from Edo State. Ismail Aziz from Abuja. We also have Abdulaziz Usman also joining us from Abuja. Please, our audience, let us know your location. Ufo Umar joining us from Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. And we have Gata Mohammed, Damaturu, and District Society. We recognize you. We appreciate you on this platform. Please let us have your questions, your comments. We'll take that shortly. Lastly, from this, I will also recognize from Okitipupa and District Society, Feyi Jimmy, Adishola, Daniel. Thank you very much. We recognize you all. We may not be able to mention everybody's name. Thank you for joining us. Tijeri.
Right. So, still a lot to unpack. What's your advice to organizations, who are in the habit of compromising health and safety standards? I mean, you often hear them say, we have a deadline to meet, production must continue. And then that makes health and safety kind of like take the back seat. What would you say to such organizations that find themselves under this kind of pressure, and how can they balance productivity with the safety and well-being of their people?
Thank you. That's a very important question. I think it's a false economy. If you're saying health and safety is not important and you're taking shortcuts, it's going to come back and bite you. It's not, health and safety is not optional. It's integral to business performance. It's very important. We hear every day when they say that our people are our biggest assets in a workplace. If you don't have a good, productive workforce, you're not going to achieve your business aims. If they're taking shortcuts, and you said, good example, say I'm supposed to, on a production line, we use a particular piece of equipment, the garden. So you want to prevent people from touching moving the rotating parts so that they don't have access to that and get harmed. And somebody says, this is slowing me down, and they remove the guard. And so that person, someone, or maybe some people, something goes wrong. Maybe even the equipment is not being maintained properly. Something goes wrong. Somebody gets seriously hurt. Maybe they lose an arm, or maybe it might even be an injury, just perhaps slightly less serious injury. Now, what's going to happen there is, if that person gets injured, you're going to have to stop that production anyway. At least most organizations with a conscience, that's what they would do. We have to agree and admit that there are some perhaps less scrupulous employers that they would say, that's another person should take their place. But in most cases, an organization with a conscience, you'll put a stop to that activity because you want to understand what's gone wrong for that event to happen. So if you did that, you're stopping production. There's a loss there for you as a company. So the money that you want to make, or the gain that you think you can get by allowing people to take shortcuts, you're going to lose it in that respect. So that's for a minor one. If it's a very, very serious incident, a lot of the time you might get the police involved, the emergency services and all of that. And if, unfortunately, then leads to, life-changing injuries. So you have the reputational damage, you have the financial cost, you have a legal challenge, and, it's not just the organization now. Directors, they could be sent to jail. So for me, it's a false economy, and you can't. It's not good for business. Good health and safety is good for business. And if you do have if you're an employer that cares for your workforce, that reputation will start sort of, you'll be known for that. People will want to come and work for you. So you get the best in the talent pool and you get an increase in your productivity. So taking shortcuts, I think it might work for a time, but at some point, something will go wrong. And then all the gains that you have acquired, you're going to lose it, or you're going to lose some of it. And then, as I said, you have that reputational damage, the legal costs, and such like. So for me, it's a false economy. And I would encourage people or organizations, it's just not right. It's not good. It's not best practice. It's counterproductive, and it could lead to big problems as an organization.
Thank you very much. Takeaway from me here is that organizations should not compromise health and safety standards because of pressure, because in the process, they may lose lives of their employees and also reduce their productivity and profitability. Let's come back to the issue of health of individuals now. There is a saying in the medical cycle that stress can be a friend or a foe. As a safety professional, Mrs. Akinyemi, help our global viewers to better understand when stress qualifies to be described as a friend and when we can call it an enemy.
Thank you. That's an area that's actually close to my heart. So stress can be a friend because we all need a little bit of pressure to help us get going. So a little bit of it to just sort of get you to say, okay, fine, I need to do this, and it might mean that you need to do some research, you need to learn, you need to discover more. So a little bit of it is good. It's good for us because it can be motivational. When it becomes a foe is when it's constant. There's no break from it. It's relentless. And then it starts affecting your mental health. You're becoming stressed. You start to suffer from depression, or you lose all motivation. That is when it becomes a foe. A little bit of pressure is good for all of us because that is it. And when pressure is constant and all of that, that's when it becomes stress, and then it becomes people go off sick. It affects people. It causes them harm, and for people around them as well, it has an impact. So some people, when they're stressed, they might start losing sleep. They might start withdrawing from people. They'll start calling in sick. If it's somebody who normally performs, they'll start underperforming, and you'll be thinking, oh, but what's going wrong with this person? He's usually, or she's usually quite good on the ball, and she delivers and all of that. But when they're stressed, they can't. It's really difficult because they lose focus, and so I think a little bit of pressure is good for us, but too much of it becomes stress, and then it stops us from performing to the best of our ability.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Just a follow up on that question, ma'am. Sometimes hear of apparently, supposedly healthy individuals, professionals, executives, even celebrities. A few days ago we heard of one. Okay, this sudden collapsing and dying. While there can be many possible curses, does this raise question about how seriously we take our personal health, and then workplace stress, and then even preventive health checks? What lessons should both individuals and organizations take from this?
Thank you. The first thing that I'm going to say there and stress is I'm not a medical professional. So let's be clear about that. However, it's sort of, you know what? I really like the quote from Emerson that we started with. It sort of comes back to what we said there. For somebody to collapse, okay, you might have somebody who has a condition that maybe they don't know about, and then it's playing out. I don't know. Once again, I'm not a medical professional, but you could have too much stress as well. And I think we all just need to remember that we only have one life and we need to take care of ourselves, and we are responsible for our health. I've got children, but it is their, once they pass a certain age, it becomes their responsibility to look after themselves. That is one thing that you cannot delegate to another person. It is your responsibility. And so we can't say, you know, we're busy, I don't have time to eat, or, oh, I'm busy, I don't have time to cook. And so you don't eat healthily, you're eating junk food, you're not sleeping well, you know. And that is something that I have noticed in our community in Nigeria. So people, they get stuck in traffic for hours. They spend 4-5 hours in the traffic, and then they go to work, and the same on the way back. And then they get home, no electricity. Where's the sound sleep? Where is that? All of that compounds to, it has an impact on our health. And if we're not careful, if we don't pay attention, so you're talking about health surveillance, well, maybe if you're not doing that kind of role, it's not necessarily surveillance, but it's you being mindful of what is normal for you and what is abnormal, which is something that we discussed earlier. Fair play, sometimes some things happen that you may not necessarily have symptoms. We also need to acknowledge that. But I think we all tend to know, and if it's not you, if it's not normal for you, get it checked out. Because once again, if you don't, and then it becomes an issue, maybe if you had noticed it before and reported it or get it checked out earlier, the prognosis might be better. But now, because we've left it and it's sort of lasted a long time, maybe other things have been damaged along the line, other impacts have taken place and all. So I think for me, we just need to be mindful of our health. It's the first wealth.
Thank you very much for that. What I take from this is, know your health is your personal responsibility, and every organization should also care about the health of their employees, because when they become too sick, they will not be productive. So we should make sure that the work environment is such that will allow them to have less stress. Stress is good for the body at times, but too much of it will not only affect the life of the employee, but also the organization. The pressure, the pressure will also affect, adversely affect the organization. As we coast home on this, it becomes stress. Okay, a bit of pressure is good. When it's too much, it becomes stress, and then it becomes enemy of our well-being. Thank you, ma'am. As we coast home, assuming President Bola Ahmed Tinubu invite you to briefly speak to his economic team on quality health, safety, and strategic risk in the workplace. Please, ma'am, I want you to tell our global audience what would be the top two, briefly, what would be the top two points that will be on your presentation slide.
That's an interesting one. Because I think I spoke a little alluded to it earlier about
Because it's not a global thing. It's not a global thing.
yeah, you know, I think we need infrastructure in Nigeria. So even before we go local to businesses, I would say that if we could have good infrastructure, especially electricity, that would be a brilliant place to start. And do you know why? Because Nigerians are one of the most resourceful people on earth that I know. And if you give them the bare minimum, they will make a lot from it. So if, say, for example, we have electricity, and this is where the systemic part comes in. If we have electricity, then manufacturing plants will run. There won't be a need for generators, and generators they are a bugbear of mine because the fumes is enough to kill people. It poisons people. So, for example, sometimes you say, "Oh, she just slept and never woke up." Who knows? Maybe it's carbon monoxide poisoning. Who knows what that has done to people's health when they're constantly exposed to generator fumes. So if we have good electricity infrastructure, manufacturing will increase, innovation will increase, people will have better health because hopefully they'll be able to sleep better. There'll be less noise from generators, quality sleep. We cannot overemphasize the importance of sleep in our well-being, good sleep, good diet. So that will be my first one. Now, when it comes to businesses and organizations, I would say that we need to have a form of enforcement for people, non-compliant organizations. We need to enforce it because if you don't enforce rules, nobody will pay attention to it. Nobody will comply. Nobody would even make attempt to comply. So we need to be able to enforce health and safety in organizations. That will be critical. And then what we're doing here, make it part of we need that education piece to educate our people on the importance of health and safety. It's not normal to overload a car. It's not normal to, to be driving a car that the thread is gone. It's not normal to have metals next to electrical cables, electrical wires, because metals are conductors of electricity, that sort of thing. There are things that should not be together. So for me, we have the education piece, we have the enforcement, and then perhaps much more widely for the country, we need better infrastructure because I think everyone's health will improve. Hospitals will work better. Offices, government offices, everywhere, everyone, schools, everyone will be in a better place if we have functioning electricity in the country.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. Well, we'll take some comments from our audience. And Nibema Martins Luther says that hazards and risk within workspaces should receive adequate attention and support where necessary. Thank you so much for that. Promise Uja, doctor, is asking a question. I believe we've answered that question. He's asking what single safety risk in our current operation, if it materialized tomorrow, would have the most catastrophic impact on our people and business, and how can daily habits actually stop it? We have a comment from Fagbola Temi Tokpe Adeniyi, who says that occupational hazards contribute immensely to the hazard and risk that professionals are exposed to. and that often when compensation are paid to the worker that suffer loss due to injury sustained, it is usually infinitesimal to the problem created. So he wants to know how we can mitigate against that to improve on employees, employers, relationship management. Do we have time to take that response from our guest?
Yeah, I can answer that, and it's an interesting question.
Well, I don't think. Okay. Please go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, look, I think the issue of compensation, I think it's
You have just 60 seconds to do that.
It's important, but I think we should be focusing more on preventing that rather than, once again, when the event has happened, employers should do their utmost to prevent people coming to harm. And then I think the level of compensation, unfortunately, that is down to the courts to determine what is worthy. All I know is, apart from the legal, reputational, and financial costs, there's the moral one. And for me, that weighs even more on me because I don't want to be responsible for people's loss of life, somebody's loss of life, or life-changing injuries. That is very, very critical to me. And so I think we need to focus more on prevention to avoid the incidents happening in the first place. Compensation, unfortunately, is for the courts to award.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Yemi Akinyemi, for taking time to explain issue of quality health, safety, and strategic risk management in modern workplace to us. You will agree with me that ICAN, based on this program, as we have said earlier, is always open to ideas that will positively advance the growth of its members and the accountancy profession across the globe. And that is why we are doing this. On behalf of the 62nd President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Ajia Kwisili Soforatu Segosime, MNI, FCA, and the chairman of ICAN On Air, Mrs. Fumi Olani, I want to say thank you for coming. Our audience, global audience, appreciate you. We appreciate how you have given us so much insight into this topic. And we believe that next time when we invite you, you will also be present. Thank you very much. We appreciate
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. I think it's a good time to look at some announcements.
Go ahead.
TJ?
Yes. Okay, so let's quickly run through our announcement this evening. The September 2026 diet of the ASFA examination. The examination date is September 22nd and 23rd of 2026, and then the registration deadline again is September 7th, 2026. Do complete your registration early and download your exam docket ahead of time. The 56th Annual Accountants Conference is bringing young accountants and graduate members fresh perspectives, valuable connections, practical learning, and plenty of moments that you will not want to miss. Go to our website and check out all the details and the package that is ready for young accountants. Over to you, DBO.
All right, just to let you know that the registration for November 2026 diet professional exam is now open. Please go to the website and register on time. There will not be a place for extension. Unfortunately, we are mourning the passing of Professor Aro Salau, FCA. He was a distinguished academic and very devoted member of ICAN. Our heart goes to the family. As we mourn his passing, we honor his contributions to the Institute, the accounting profession, and academia. Our heartfelt condolence go to his family, colleagues, and associates, and we pray that his soul rests in perfect peace. On this note, ladies and gentlemen, professional colleagues, I'm signing out. We look forward to another time with you. This has been a wonderful time knowing about our health, about our safety in the workplace, and the impact on strategic risk. My name is Dr. Bode Oguntoke, FCA. You can call me DBO. I look forward to join you another time. Thank you, TJ.
Yeah. Yemi FCA signing off here. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye.